I just saw the Backrooms for the first time and have a lot of thoughts that I've seen bits and pieces of around on the internet, and I don't think have been tied together explicitly yet that I wanted to address. The main thesis here isn't an original. I'll just say it right here at the start. I believe that Mary, Clark's therapist, had prior knowledge of the Backrooms before meeting Clark. If you've written off this theory, please just hear me out. Her very first reaction to hearing about the Backrooms from Clark is, I'm not saying I don't believe you, which isn't much on its own, but it does not end there. An important moment I'm not seeing talked about was how when Mary is being debriefed by Phil, and he shows her a photo of Clark, and Phil asks, were you looking for this man? She never says yes, and he even tries to press her on it. He asks her again, and then she changes the subject and asks what is going to happen to her. I think this is intentionally misleading us to think that she's asking this out of fear, but it's actually a diversion on her part because she originally entered because she misses her childhood home. She had been led to believe by her mother's recounts, more on that later, and then this is later reinforced by Clark's account of the Backrooms being every place that ever was. This, of course, would have great significance to someone who very clearly misses their childhood home, as evidenced by the cement imprint that she keeps with her. She even grabs it before going to the Backrooms. This is not an insignificant storytelling decision. Her grabbing it on the way to the Backrooms is clear evidence that she knows going to the Backrooms might mean going back to her childhood home. She is embarrassed to admit her true intentions out loud during the debriefing because her real motivation to come to the Backrooms shows she wasn't acting out of care for Clark, but to fulfill her own desires. She's protecting her career probably, or simply too embarrassed to admit it, just like on moral grounds. Her avoidance of the question is clear evidence that there is something off about her motives to enter the Backrooms. Now, if I'm right about her motives to come to the Backrooms being off, how could she possibly have different motives if she has never heard about what the Backrooms are? She never expresses coming into the Backrooms to find Clark. No, she has prior knowledge of the Backrooms and she is looking for her childhood home. The Backrooms represent regression. They represent regressive, destructive habits, and this is in stark contrast to Mary's philosophy that she sells of finding a window, which she frames as, forging your new path. In her ad, we hear her say, do you ever feel like you're living behind glass, watching life happen, but never really stepping into it? Maybe it's time to open the window within. You can be the author of your own design because we all deserve another chance to fulfill our dreams. The moment you believe change is possible, you've already begun. The irony in that is that Clark believes he has found his window and a path forward, as clearly evidenced by the voice message he leaves her. But as we see in the movie, he has a sharp decline after this. He embraces his flaws way too much in his pursuit of studying the Backrooms. He lures two people to an unimaginable hellscape. We see him stab the still lifes with a knife with no remorse. And he also, ties Mary to a chair and forces her to validate his feelings. So the Backrooms in the case of Clark and Mary represent regression. It actually literally contains the past, present, and future. I don't want to get into any of that. Plenty of people have discussed this. This is the part I'm trying to focus on. It's the regression aspect. Mary, too, was experiencing a form of regression. The cement imprint she carries with her is a clear symbol of her not wanting to completely let go of her past, despite the trauma she experienced back there. She's trying to go back to her past, and she makes it pretty clear that she doesn't like Clark, as evidenced, as we see later in the film when she totally gets his ass when she's tied to the chair. She expresses that quite clearly, that she just sees him as someone that doesn't take accountability for anything. She also clearly sees that her true motive to come back is not a good look for her. Why else would she avoid the question mentioned earlier during the debriefing? Eventually, her destroying the cement imprint from her childhood home to escape Captain Clark, it's symbolic of her letting go of that goal and simply trying to survive and forge a new path. Mary Kline's mother also seems to be integrated into the theories I see, but not as much as I think she should be. There's a line where her mother says, they're all over the place. And it's generally dismissed as her being agoraphobic. This is too vague in my opinion. I think this movie is too tightly written for this to be all there is to it. I believe that Mary's mother had experienced the Backrooms and developed a psychotic break from the trauma. Who wouldn't? And her fear is arguably very reasonable in regards to protecting her child in a world where a portal to hell can appear anywhere, pretty much. The line, they're all over the place, is important here, as it is echoed by Phil later in the film, where he states there are doors opening everywhere. We as the audience know that there are at least 3 entrances to the back rooms, and some of them are unaccounted for. So there's the one that Clark enters, the one that Async are using to enter, and there's the one where the Seagull enters. And you can even hear seagulls outside during that first chase sequence at the very beginning of the film. I doubt that this entrance is under Async's control, otherwise it would likely be shut off, and the seagull couldn't fly into it. And, given all the other source material for the back rooms, there's proof that there's openings everywhere. So we know this. Entrances, and thus the horrifying still lifes, could also be anywhere. When Clark takes the stool out of the back rooms, that's a piece of furniture. And you know what else he calls the still lifes? Furniture. He refers to them as furniture. So if a stool can be brought out of the back rooms, obviously the still lifes can. Mary has seen the back rooms and has also learned that the entrances are opening everywhere and warns Mary of the danger. This is how Mary has prior knowledge of the back rooms. Okay, so I hope I've made that point. The rest of this video is just me shotgunning things I love about this movie and some shorter theories. I love the shot of Mary imprinting her hand in the cement, as it alludes to not just the way one enters the back room, where they usually, they have their hand go through the wall first, but also the way the back rooms are almost entirely made of imprints we as humans leave on the world. I also thought the shot was a wall at first, where she's putting her hand into the cement, which that added to the effect for me. Her imprint obviously also symbolizes her desire to cling on to the past, but that's just such a rich symbol. There's a lot of meaning behind it. I love it. It's a fantastic MacGuffin. It's also possible that Async found out about the backrooms originally while doing a CAT scan of a still life that wandered out of the backrooms and somehow tracing its origin. This is why they scan Mary, to make sure she's not a still life. The still lifes we see are all distorted, but maybe some of them out there are more believable as normal human beings. This could also tie into Mary's mother, agoraphobia. It makes a lot of sense to me. Captain Clark is a fun reference to the real-life Captain Clark, the American frontiersman, so seeing our Clark explore the backrooms carrying that name is adorable. Oh yeah, so this is a weird theory of mine. The reason I believe Captain Clark kills the original Clark in that moment is because the copy of Clark, Captain Clark, is protecting itself by any means necessary. I got the impression that Clark had cohabitated with Captain Clark for some time. It's not really confirmed, but it seemed that way to me. He even tells Mary when they first hear him approaching, "Stay calm, it's only me. You know me." Which is also hilarious given how, he admits himself in therapy that he hurts people and everything else we know about him. So I doubt that gave her any comfort. But anyway, my point is that upon seeing Mary, Captain Clark knows that if Mary escapes, she might tell others, which might lead to outsiders coming in and disrupting the backrooms. This is important for Captain Clark because the original Clark is clearly obsessed with the backrooms and wants to stay. Now, what happens if you twist and distort a man that's been capable of all these horrible things into a still life? You get eaten alive, that's what you get. Captain Clark wants to protect the backrooms even more than the original Clark. He just has more clarity of vision, I think. One last decision I really love about the movie is that the main focal point of Clark's life is his furniture store. I'm sure many of you have seen the original 4chan post that inspired this modern day myth, but did you know it was actually taken in a furniture store? Okay, that's all I got. If you want a recommendation to another Backrooms video I love, I really enjoyed Gavin Grizzle's video on the same movie. Definitely recommend checking him out. My name is Sean. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you. Bye.